Shalom, peace, face the east towards Jerusalem, or should I say Rashalom, Kol Halal Yahweh, Bashum Yahushai, Bashum Ha Qadash. That's Hebrew for all praise Yahweh in the name Yahushai, in the name of Holy Spirit. Giving double honors to the elder apostles of Great Millstone, as well as honor to the men on the elder apostles of Great Millstone. Shalom to the elect. This video is about the fact that we all die alone. Or should I say, we all experience death alone. Based on the scriptures, at the time of death, your body stays and decays upon the face of the earth. Also, your spirit goes up to the spirit world where Yahweh, Yahushai, and other spirits are. Ecclesiastes 3:18 through 21. I said in mine heart concerning the estate of the sons of men, that God might manifest them, that they might see that they themselves are beasts. For that which befalleth the sons of men befalleth beasts. He's talking about both beasts and, mankind, humans. They experience death before beasts. Even one thing befalleth them. As the one dieth, so dieth the other. Yea, they have all one breath, so that a man hath no preeminence above a beast, for all is vanity. All go on to one place, all are of the dust, and all turn to dust again. Who know of the spirit of man that goeth upward, and the spirit of the beast that goeth downward to the earth? The spirit of a human goes up to the spirit world at the time of death. I want to give you the example of the death of Sarah and the death of Abraham. Genesis 23 talks, the start of Genesis 23 talks about the death and burial of Sarah. Talks about the death of Sarah. Genesis 23:1. And Sarah was 127 years old. These were the years of the life of Sarah. And verse 2, and Sarah died in Kirjath-Arba, the same as Hebron, in the land of Canaan. And Abraham came to mourn for her and to weep for her. Genesis 23 verses 1 through 2 tells you how long Sarah lived for and where she died, and that Abraham mourned for her, cried for her. Sarah died at 127 years old in Kirjath-Arba. Abraham, her husband, died years later. She dies at 127 years old. Abraham dies at 175 years old, as you find out in Genesis 25. They were husband and wife. They died at a separate time. People say, don't you want to die together? They usually might shame you if you're single. Don't you want to die with, don't you want to die together? But you'll die alone, if you say, I don't want to get married, whatever reason give, but someone might use this sensationalist talk of dying together with someone, but everyone dies alone. The exact time you die is by itself. And not only that, even if you did die at the same time as someone else, guess what? You all experience death separately. Your spirit goes up to the spirit world as it leaves your body, which your body goes to stay and decay upon the face of the earth. I'm going to give you an example. Sarah died at 127 before Abraham, and she died before Abraham. Go to Genesis 25, which talks about Abraham's death at the start of it. Genesis 25:1. Right, it also talks about his third woman, Keturah, which was a concubine of his. He had 6 sons with her. I'm just going to jump to the part in Genesis 25. 7 through 11. And these are the days of the years of Abraham's life which he lived, 100 years. A score is 20, 20 times 3 equals 60, so 3 score equals 60. 160, and 15 years. 160 plus 15 years is 175 years. Abraham died at 175 years old. Sarah died at 127 years old. There was a 10-year gap between Abraham and Sarah. If Abraham was 30, Sarah was 20. If Abraham was 100, Sarah was 90. So Abraham died nearly 40 years after Sarah. Even though there's a 48-year lifespan gap between Abraham and Sarah, seeing Abraham lived for 175 and Sarah lived for 127 years old, you have to account for the age gap between the two of them, which was 10. Abraham died at 175. She died at 127. Minus the age gap, the twin makes that 38. So Sarah, Abraham's wife, died 38 years before her husband. Sarah died 38 years before Abraham. Abraham died 38 years after Sarah. They were husband and wife. They didn't die together. And in everyday life, there are people, however old they are, that are in marriages together, and one spouse may die before the other. The husband might die before the wife might die before the husband. So this talk of we'll die, don't you want to die together? Look, people, even if they were to die at the same time, experience death separately. And people typically in relationships don't die at the same time. They die at separate times. One dies before the other. Usually the wife outlives the husband. Sometimes the husband outlives the wife. You got people in care homes. You might have a father and mother, grandparents. Your grandma might be alive on your mother's side, but your grandfather on your mother's side is not alive. It might be your grandfather's father on either side outlived your grandmothers on either side. I'm just showing out the Bible with the example of Abraham and Sarah. You can use the example of the Messiah with the two wicked men, one on the right and the left of him, one on either side. Luke 23:39 through 43. And one of the malefactors which were hanged railed on him, saying, If thou be Christ, if thou be the anointed, save thyself and us. Verse 40. But the other answering rebuked him, saying, Dost not thou fear God? God there is talking about the God of Israel, Yahweh. Seeing thou art in the same condemnation. Verse 41. And we indeed justly, and we rightfully. And that man goes on to say why. For we get the due reward of our deeds. He's talking to, one malefactor is talking to another malefactor, saying, we're going through this crucifixion for our wicked deeds. But this man, that being the Messiah, Yahushua Mashiach, hath done nothing amiss. Because the Messiah was innocent. He was falsely accused by those Jews that made up false accounts, and their accounts did not match up. Pontius Pilate found him innocent. They said, let his blood be upon us and our children. Matthew 27:25. And he brought unto them a criminal that they preferred over the innocent Messiah. Barabbas, if I'm getting his name wrong. Anyway, Luke 23:42. And he said unto Yahushua, Lord, remember me when thou comest into thy kingdom, the kingdom of heaven, which is going to take place in the next age. Yahushua, the Messiah, is going to come back to judge and make war and righteousness and might save his elect, so they be scattered throughout the corners of the earth. After the smoke of the thermonuclear destruction settles, the elect alongside Yahushua and the angels are going to come down and take over the earth in righteousness. Daniel 7 talks about the saints and the Most High shall take the kingdom and possess it even forever and ever. Luke 23:43. And Yahushua said unto him, Verily I say unto thee, truly I say unto thee, today shalt thou be with me in paradise. Paradise there is talking about the spirit world. The place where your soul goes to when you die. You'll find Yahushua there, the Most High, and some angels there. Not all spirits, not all angels are up in the spirit world. Some spirits are on earth, some spirits are there. For example, when you're alive, your spirit is on earth. But when you die, your spirit goes up to paradise here, the spirit world. And then, you keep on reading Luke 23:46. Yahushua gave the ghost. Yahushua basically told that man, truly I say unto you, you're going to be open in the spirit world with me. When you die, your spirit goes up to the spirit world. Ecclesiastes 3:21. Who knows the spirit of man that goes upward and the spirit of the beast that goes downward to the earth. The spirit of man at the time of death leaves the body and goes up to the spirit world. It's paradise. I could give you examples out of the Apocrypha, the death of Antiochus Epiphanes, how it's described his gruesome death. Second Esdras 9:5. But the Lord Almighty, the God of Israel, smote him with an incurable and invincible plague. For as soon as he had spoken these words, a pain of the bowels that was remedials came upon him, and sore torments of the inner parts, and that most iously and most rightly, for he had tormented other men's bowels with many and strange torments. Verse 7. Howbeit he nothing at all ceased from his bragging. He didn't stop his bragging, but still was filled with pride, breathing out fire in his rage against the Jews, the Yehudim, and commanded to haste the journey. But it came to pass that he fell down from his chariot, carried violently, so that having a sore fall, all the members of his body were much pained. Verse 8. And thus he that a little before, thought he might command the waves of the sea, so proud was he beyond the condition of man. Basically, Antiochus Epiphanes was one of the most prideful men ever, and weighed the high mountains in a balance, was now thrown down onto the ground, and carried in a horse litter, shewing forth unto all the manifest power of God. The Most High humbled Antiochus Epiphanes for bragging in pride. Scriptures say pride goes before destruction, and haughty spirit before fall, and Antiochus Epiphanes' death is an example of that. Let me just get it. Proverbs 16:18. Pride goes before destruction, and haughty spirit before fall. You can read 2 Maccabees 9, where it talks about Most High wounding Antiochus Epiphanes, and then having him go through it, basically put him through a painful, torturous death. Verse 9. So that the worms rose up out of the body of this wicked man, and whilst he lived in sorrow and pain, his flesh fell away, and the filthiness of his smell was noisome to all his army. Verse 10. And the man thought a little before he could reach the stars of heaven, no man could endure to carry for his intolerable stink. Basically, worms devoured his body while still alive, and then the smell as he died was so bad that none of his army could handle it. You can keep on reading, but like Judith, she was a widow. She was alive. A widow, a woman who's a widow is one who has a husband who died. A woman whose husband has died. Judith, as it tells us here in Judith chapter 8, so Judith was widow in her house 3 years and 4 months. Why was she widow? Her husband died. Her husband died before her. So married people, single people, both experience death individually. Sensations talk to say we all died,